First to Congresswoman Karen Bass, Democrat from the great state of California, member of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, who said today that the U.S. cannot, quote, bomb our way to peace. Good evening, Congresswoman.
Good evening.
Congresswoman, everyone seems to be acting like this just happened this week, but this has been going on since 2012, and there have been other allegations of chemical weapons. You say we can't bomb our way to peace. What do we do? What would you do if you were president?
Well, I mean, I think most important is, well, first of all, I have no quick answer, okay? Let me just say that. But I think in this instance, what concerns me is that we have a president that's been in office for almost 3 months, and we have no idea what his foreign policy is. So I just don't know where this fits. He also won't tell us what he plans to do next if there would be another strike. To me, that's exactly why it's so important for us to have the AUMF, the authorization of the use of military force. This needs to be discussed and debated in Congress because we just simply don't know what he's going to do. Just a week ago, he was saying something completely different. We're still not clear what his relationship is with Russia. And so with all of that, that's why Congress needs to play the role that it should play, which is the authorization of use of military force. It needs to be voted on, debated on in the House of Representatives and the Senate.
Okay, a couple things. Number one is he says he won't tell us. That's my first question. Who's the us? Is it the American people? Is it the members of Congress? Is it the Gang of Eight? Is that who the us is? That's the first part. The second thing is for the authorization of military forces. Everybody in Congress has split. You've all left town. Nobody's rushing back to town. But nobody's come back to town. So when would you like this debate to occur?
Well, first of all, just because we left town does not mean we can't return. But second of all, he chose to do the strike when we were literally on planes leaving town. I mean, the Senate was in session. They were in the middle of the Supreme Court. But we had left 4 or 5 hours right after we left is when he chose to do this. So I don't know who he would tell. I don't know. Maybe the group of 8 knew. But, you know, for the authorization of use of military force, it needs to be a discussion within Congress. And so we can go back at any time. You can call us back anytime there's an emergency, and I would call on the Speaker to do that, to call us back and say this is an emergency, especially if we do not know what the next steps are. But again, my primary point is we have a president that does not have a coherent foreign policy. He submitted a budget that has us slashing the State Department and foreign aid by 30%. At the same time, he's concerned about the children in Syria, just as you said at the top of the hour. He doesn't want to let them in our country as refugees. So without a coherent foreign policy, we need some leadership here.
Okay, I understand your viewpoint. I understand the need to have the foreign policy and also the importance of bringing Congress into the discussion. But if you were president tonight, let's separate out the issues of process and President Trump, and let's focus more on the imminent problem. If you had to make that decision tonight, if you were president of the United States, what would you be doing? Because this is a very complex problem, and I don't think there is a perfect answer, as you acknowledge. But if you had to, I mean, if you had the horrible job of having to make the decision, what would you do?
Well, what I would have done is, first of all, I would have not done the strikes that were done yesterday. I would have, you know, convened and addressed this in the United Nations. I would have talked to our key partners, our key allies. To me, I think it has to be an international solution. It needs to be a political solution, but it's certainly just solving it because of how you reacted with the chemical attack, which was horrific, and we know that it was not the only time that was done. I think the world needs to come together and address Syria. That's easier said than done, because I know that that has certainly been attempted. But this is no answer.
Since this has been going on, up until now, it's actually hit sort of a catastrophic point because everyone's focusing on. We've seen these images, but the fact that it has been going on for a number of years, have we looked the other way, and have we ignored this problem until right now?
I do think we've looked the other way, but I'll tell you something else I'd do. I would let Syrian refugees come into the United States. That's what I would do. The children and the women that I was concerned about, I would let them come into the United States.
Congressman, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me on.
And today